hearing me or not? I'm sorry. I think I was. Oh my goodness. I think I actually was muted for a bit. But let's hear this debate because we're talking about that debate today, the takeaways from it, not from a political lens, but it is from the lens of a speaker, from a speaking lens, communication, what worked, what didn't. So without any further ado, I'm just going to play like a minute and we're going to come back and speak. Let's see. Oh my goodness. I just hope that this was.
Donald Trump left us the worst unemployment since the Great Depression. Donald Trump left us the worst public health epidemic in a century. Donald Trump left us the worst attack on our democracy since the Civil War. And what we have done is clean up Donald Trump's mess. What we have done and what I intend to do is build on what we know are the aspirations and the hopes of the American people. But I'm going to tell you all in this debate tonight, you're going to hear from the same old tired playbook, a bunch of lies, grievances, and name-calling. What you're going to hear tonight is a detailed and dangerous plan called Project 2025 that the former president intends on implementing if he were elected again. I believe very strongly that the American people want a president who understands the importance of bringing us together, knowing we have so much more in common than what separates us. And I pledge to you to be a president for all Americans.
President Trump will give you a minute here to respond.
Number one, I have nothing to do, as you know, and as she knows better than anyone, I have nothing to do with Project 2025. That's out there. I haven't read it. I don't want to read it purposely. I'm not going to read it. This was a group of people that got together. They came up with some ideas, I guess some good, some bad, but it makes no difference. I have nothing to do. Everybody knows I'm an open book. Everybody knows what I'm going to do. Cut taxes very substantially and create a great economy like I did before. We had the greatest economy. We got hit with a pandemic, and the pandemic was not since 1917, where 100 million people died, has there been anything like it. We did a phenomenal job with the pandemic. We handed them over a country where the economy and where the stock market was higher than it was before the pandemic came in. Nobody's ever seen anything like it. We made ventilators for the entire world. We got gowns, we got masks, we did things that nobody thought possible. And people give me credit for rebuilding the military. They give me credit for a lot of things, but not enough credit for the great job we did with it.
Okay. All right, you guys. So let me know if you were hearing me in the beginning. I do apologize if you weren't. I think it perhaps just went. Let me stop sharing my screen so I can come back on. All right. Let me know if you can if you can hear me now. I apologize. I think it was on mute or something, but let me know. Okay, you guys. Now, what did you see? When you look at his speech, it hits you a certain way. And I teach that to speakers a lot. It hits you a certain way. And the way that a speech comes at you and lands on you has a lot to do with the preparation and what the speakers meant to do in the first place. So the question is, what did Donald Trump need to do last night in terms of communication? And what did Kamala Harris need to do? I think Donald Trump needed to show up as himself. If this man had come and been any less like belligerent, if he had been any less what we were accustomed to, people would have been like, what is going on? But I do not think that he was speaking to either the host, like the moderators. He was speaking to his base, and he did that. Kamala Harris, on the other hand, needed to speak and communicate and debate in a way that showed her as certain things. So Donald Trump on one side needed to be himself. On the other hand, Kamala Harris, she needed to convince those people who were not of her ability to be commander in chief. Also, she needed to really show people who she was some more. Although people keep on saying they don't know, and I'm like, what else does she need to do? Like, do you need to be in her living room? Like, what do you need to know her? I think when people say that, what they actually mean is there is a level of authenticity to Donald Trump. Now, what is authenticity? Authenticity is being deeply yourself. Authenticity has nothing to do with whether I am noble or not, Whether I am deeply positive or deeply negative, on it's nothing of the sort. It is I am true to myself, whatever that self is. And I think when people say that they don't know Kamala Harris, is because for the most part it seems like she is so scripted, and that is the truth. And on the other hand, the thing that has always gone for Donald Trump is that he's deeply authentic. He whether you agree with him or not, the degree of authenticity appeals to a certain sector of his base, and that is exactly what he's going after. And he did it last night as well. I'm not talking about who won. That's not my business here this morning. Okay. It is to look at them as speakers and to notice a couple things that you can take and you can use in your speaking life as a business person, or even in your professional life. Some things worked and some things don't. Let me tell you one of the things that worked: repetition on both. And I wrote down, I pulled down, I watched most of it last night. I fell asleep and watched some of it this morning, right? I pulled out places where each candidate last night used repetition. When you speak and you use repetition, what it does is to create a certain awareness and urgency in your audience's mind. When did they do that? When Donald Trump was challenged on the January 6th uprising that happened after he left and didn't want to emit office, he immediately, and the question was asked of him twice. And I want to commend the moderators last night. They were like very calm, tried to be objective, one more than the other. And one too was also like very, the word that I there's a word that means, oh my goodness, the word I'm looking for is like somebody's unflustered. No matter what happens across the board, reminds me of my husband. Across the board, they just remain the same. And the guy in particular last night, he was not flustered at all. At certain points, you could see that, especially when they were talking about abortion, the female moderators seemed a bit put out. Look at the body language. I always, as a speaker and as a speaker of a coaching, a speaker who, a coach who trains speakers, I always look at these public utterances from the lens of a speaking coach. Like, what are you seeing? How is it hitting you? What can I teach my clients so that they themselves are able to, in a sense, guide and direct whatever they put out, their message, which is everything. But Donald Trump, when he was asked whether he takes any responsibility for January 6th, what did he say? Deflected. In about 10 or 15 seconds, he repeated, and you're going to hear his base saying that it was Nancy Pelosi, it was Nancy Pelosi, it was Nancy Pelosi, it was Nancy Pelosi. When go back, you guys, look at what that part of the debate. When he said Nancy Pelosi, his voice went up. The conviction deepened. Why? Everybody knows that it was not Nancy Pelosi who was responsible for January 6th. But he creates enough doubt in people's minds because of the way that he's saying it. In other speeches and other interviews, I have heard people say that Donald Trump, he has told his people, keep on saying something, because it doesn't even matter whether it's true or not. The more you say it, is the more people are going to believe it. If you say it enough times, they're going to believe it. Now, that is not ethical. I do not subscribe to that, especially as a speaker who takes the craft seriously and knows what words can do to people. And I hope you feel that this morning, that in your own speaking life, wherever you are as a professional or a business person in particular who has to talk about your products and services, that there has to be a level of integrity. But he's very right. The more you say something, is the more likelihood there is that people are going to believe it. And so when he repeats Nancy Pelosi, you start to think, okay, maybe his base will just buy it. But even the person on the outside who has a more objective view, hearing it like that and not even having the tools of knowing that, this is just a tactic, it creates doubt in your mind. In your own speaking life, you can use it. for good. Repetition of the thing that you want people to know, to be informed about, to be educated about, to be persuaded about. If you repeat it enough times in a pleasant way, but an emphatic way in when you speak, they are going to get it. Now, how did Kamala Harris do that? Okay. I think we saw it at the beginning of the little snippet that I played. I hope Facebook does not take down my life or LinkedIn or whatever. It was just a couple seconds, okay? She kept on saying, oh my gosh, I wrote it down. She says, what we will, there was a time she kept on repeating, what we were left with was, what we were left with was, what we were left with, what we were left with was. I hope you're understanding my accent. That repetition serves the same purpose. It's all, here's the word that I use to describe what's happening when they keep on repeating names. It is in your head and in your heart, relentless. When something is relentless, you can't keep it from coming. It keeps on, it just keeps on just rolling over. Okay. And that creates a sense of urgency and almost a sense that this thing is right and this thing is what exactly happened. In your own speeches, you can use it to your advantage. You can be relentless with the repetition of a thing that you want your audience to know and to believe. So that works. And then, too, even from a media point of view, and I teach my clients this, I do have a program for clients who are media facing. This is a one-on-one speaking coaching program called All the World's a Stage. And I've seen it blossom over the years. A very small number of people who are in it, but all the world's a stage is meant that every speech that you have, if you are that media facing person or public facing person, that we take your speech, we prepare you, what are you wearing? How are you showing up? What is the speech to you? I've even prepared somebody for a TEDx talk from using that program because it really helps you to know that when you stand there to speak, even before you stand up and you get there on stage or virtually, you have to work out certain things in your head. What do I want to say? What is the message that I want to leave with people? And when you have the purpose of your communication clear, then on top of that, you layer the words, you layer how you dress, you layer what the body language is going to be. And so there's a certain amount of stagecraft with speaking that I think everybody needs. And Donald Trump is very aware of it. He's very aware. This guy's like what, 6'3", I think, 6'2", 6'3". So I mean, it didn't even matter because Kamala Harris filled the stage. She filled the screen in certain times when she was speaking. But you can leverage all of these things to your advantage. Your height or lack thereof, your girth or lack thereof. All of these things come into play when you stand to speak. And we saw that last night. So you can use the repetition. It also functions as sound bites. Just watch what happens today. Both of them are aware and prepared very closely for this. They put sound bites into their speech. I bet you people are going to pull out what Kamala Harris said about he left us with. That creates a certain urgency and it will make, it will just blitz the news cycle today and for the next couple of days. Just you watch. Now, the next thing and the last thing I want to talk about is diction. You know what diction is? Diction is using the right word in the right context. Oh my goodness, I love it. Let me give you a very a, a lovely example of it. Words for me are like cheesecake. I love cheesecake. So that tells you what I think of words. To put the right word in the right place. That comes from just reading. That comes from having a diet of constant words, however you get them. So start now if you want to be that person. So two examples. There was when I was a reporter back in St. Lucia, I had the opportunity to interview one of our Nobel laureates. Obviously the one who was alive at the time. What are you saying, Lisa? And that is Derek Walcott. So we were planning the interview over the phone. When I called him, he said that, well, he couldn't do it in the morning, I think. He wanted to do it in the afternoon. Listen to the word that he used. That shows you putting the right word in the right place is such a beautiful experience for your audience. He says, I'd prefer to do it in the afternoon because it is more leisurely. Anybody else could have said, I have more time in the afternoon. I am more relaxed in the afternoon. But this man who has a powerful, ethereal affair with words, he says, I'll do it in the afternoon where it's more leisurely or something like that. But it was the using of the word, the use of the word leisurely right there that was so nicely placed. Now you don't have to be that kind of person, but you do have to choose words. And they did that last night. And I've got some examples for you. You do have to choose words that will evoke emotion and will send the exact message that you want to your audience. As a business person, as a professional, even in meetings, the use of words rightly are going to get you results. Let me give you an example. Even in my Speak with Confidence program, one of the modules is called Speak to Thirsty. That use of the word thirsty there was intentional. And I hope it hits you the way it has hit so many other people, because I think it works. I could have said, speak to the hungry person, speak to the person who needs what you have to say. But what is it about when I say, speak to your thirsty person? Like this morning, who's my thirsty person? My thirsty person is the person who needs to hear how to speak. I've got a great product, but I can't speak. Lisa's saying, speak to thirsty. So my mind is going to cast back to who needs to hear what I have to say. The thirsty makes you think that somebody deeply wants it. And if you speak to that person, the way that you come at your speech and the way that you present is way different than if you're thinking, oh my gosh, is my hair, do I have spots on my top, which I do? Oh my goodness, I'm not well put together. Oh my goodness, what happened? When you speak to the thirsty person, then your mind is on serving and your mind is on giving that person what they want. You guys, I could go on for like hours, okay? But the entire week this week, we're going to talk about speaking. I'm going to help you because I want you to come to my session on Sunday. We're looking at what makes a great speaker, the secrets of the great. Let me just put this up for you. And so I need, no, it's this one. I always keep on, I need to take this out. Okay. On the 15th of September at 12 noon, 12 noon MST, I want to invite you to that LinkedIn audio event. Please come because you're going to really learn a lot. Okay. You really are going to learn a lot about some of the things that great speakers do, confident speakers do that you can begin to employ. So the LinkedIn, it's on I'm going to just post it up in a bit. Let me just come off the screen here, because there's a lot that you can learn. You do not have to have, like, some people have the gift of the gab. Some people will just flow out of them. That's okay. And not everybody can be an Obama. And he's actually the first person I'm going to look at today, in my post today, about some of the secrets, like some of the things that you can learn, and questions you can ask about what is it about when he speaks that makes you want to listen and makes you feel a certain way that you can then employ. It has nothing to do with the innate ability. Sometimes it is literally just stagecraft. But I was talking about diction, and we're going to end very quickly. Okay. So Donald Trump was very quick to use certain words. He just pops them up because he knows that's what his base needs. He says, she's a Marxist. That plays into them thinking that she's very on the left. She's on the left quite a lot, right? He says, he said he had less rightly put words than her because his authenticity carried him. Donald Trump showed up as himself. Where he was good, he was very good. Where he was terrible on certain things, it didn't make much sense, right? But where he was good, he's so instinctive about the economy, about what works. The way you look at his body language, he handles the economy like he does just any, like a deal, a business deal. You can just see that it comes instinctively to him, the same way that you can see how deeply Kamala Harris cares about abortion rights, which is what I think came out the most. But here's where the stagecraft with her and using words that triggered him, absolutely triggered him last night. She said she used words like, and listen, and think of why she would use those words with that candidate, with that opponent. She said words like weakest, disgrace, terrible, disparaged, and demeaned. Okay. And these are just a few of the words that she used. And you hear words like weakest, disgrace, and terrible, and it almost sounds like it is Donald Trump who's saying that because these are his words. That was intentional. And that tells you that. Last thing I want to say, I hope you enjoyed this morning. And I'll be back tomorrow with more on what makes a confident speaker, what makes a memorable speaker. And the thing with using these words, and it tells you when you have to speak, you've got to prepare well. I One of the things I teach my speakers is you've got to give people the gift of yourself. When you speak, you are a gift. The speech is a gift. And you have to take the time to prepare it, to nurture it. So, like, this is like 2 weeks before, even if it's a TEDx, long before, to sit down and to figure out what do I want to come out of this. And when you decide on that, then you put in all of the ingredients. You have to think of the speech like you're creating a meal, okay? I'm putting in the ingredients. I'm putting in repetition. I'm putting in how I dress and how I show up. Because everything, if you just look at the beginning of the debate, I didn't see the end because I fell asleep. But the beginning, when they walked out, Kamala Harris, she came from stage right, okay? Walked over to him, did not wait for him to come over. And so, obviously, what does that say? What is the message that's being sent? That I am not afraid of you. Here I am, shook his hand. You heard her voice a lot louder, a lot clearer than you heard his at the beginning there, setting the stage as in, I'm not afraid. Just classic Art of War. If anybody has read that book on how to discombobulate an opponent, and then they got into it. So I want you to look at the debate from the lens of a speaker, which is what I attempted to do this morning. I people are saying all sorts of things, and here's the last thing, right? People are saying, okay, she did better and all of that, but let's remember that a speech is a speech. They said the same thing for Hillary Clinton. Remember that? Both debates, she was purported to have won. Stagecraft, going after the things that needle him. It's a deeply authentic person, I think, that can beat a deeply authentic person. That is what I don't need. That makes sense for me. But let's see what happens, right? So we saw them. We probably are going to see them again. I hope there's another debate, but from the lens of a speaker, as there are things that you can employ in your own speaking life to kind of bring it to life, to bring your message across, for people to know about your products and services, for people to be persuaded of a particular point of view that you are pushing, maybe as a professional in your office or the board of directors and so on. Don't just write a bland speech. That's like chicken breast without any kind of seasoning. Okay? Don't do that. Write a speech and deliver a speech and season it with parts of you and all of the tools of speaking that will make that speech and that presentation truly a gift to people. Okay, you guys, we are at the 30-minute mark. Okay, this time is creeping up, so I have to exercise some control over here. Anyway, I'll be on 6 a.m. MST tomorrow, and we're going to continue talking about what makes a speaker, a speech memorable, a speaker great, that kind of thing. I'll present another speaker, hopefully not political this time, for us to talk about, because there are many of all races, persuasions, countries, etc. So DM me, let me know if this was helpful. Tell me what kinds of speakers you admire, what kind of speakers you think I should explore and present to our audience here